Hi Ryan. This is going to be a different one for the human element. Nice to see you.
Lovely to be here. Thanks, Nix.
So Ryan and I have got a little bit of a history, and I wanted to invite him. I've been looking forward to having him on the podcast right from when I started, because we met pre-COVID actually, and for lots of different reasons, I find Ryan, you to be so fascinating on lots of different levels. And I think that anybody listening to an interview with you is going to learn something important. Ryan and I crossed paths initially because he's a Kundalini yoga instructor, and I do love my Kundalini, and we're going to dive into how it is a technology as well. And that's the bridge between the human element and Ryan is the Kundalini technology. So can't wait to talk about that. But just to introduce Ryan, I went on to his website, which I will post in the links. And his list of qualifications is mind-blowing. I mean, just to read out a few. Reiki master, lifeline counselor, studied hypnosis, Ishtar yoga teacher, a graduate of psychology, hospice bereavement counselor, your teacher and trainer certified at Ishtar as well, and a Kundalini yoga teacher. And that's not counting all of the sort of transformational, life-changing work that you've done in your not that many years. So he's a young guy and done so many things. So well studied and in such a diverse array of things. So yeah, we're very lucky to have you chatting to me, I think.
Thank you, Nix. I think there's always a joy that comes from these shared spaces together.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to dive right into what I'm most excited to share with people because it really was one of those moments that struck me. I'm always looking for the bridge between science and spirituality. I think it's such an interesting space to sort of dig into and explore. And I've always felt like Kundalini did something for me that I wasn't able to explain. You know, it's like so the physiology of it and how the biology and biochemistry and everything of Kundalini is what makes us feel so transformed after a class. And you actually understand that. You know, I just know it in theory, but you actually understand the mechanics of that. So can you elaborate and unpack how Kundalini is a technology?
It's such a lovely question, Nix, and it's such a broad conversation to have. So I want to speak to it in a way that can excite the people watching this, and maybe prompt further research for them. Uh, I grew up in a way where I needed a way to connect to my body that wasn't through competitive sport. And that brought me to yoga because it was just me and my body and my breath. But thankfully, yoga had also this element of the spirit in it. And I feel like in our modern world, where we are fast becoming absorbed into the technological spaces, and it's very exciting. And our tradition actually speaks a lot about this. Our forefathers and foremothers in our tradition actually spoke to a lot of the upcoming technological advancements that were going to happen. But they said, you know what, humanity, as you're evolving, as you're hurtling ahead into a new world, a new age, if we could put it that way, of information and awareness, you cannot neglect where you come from. You cannot neglect the origin story of humanity. And I feel like spirituality is just that. It's purpose. It's our understanding of the bigger picture and where we belong in that bigger picture. And we, as human beings, are the most technologically advanced creatures among the rest of nature as well. So we're excited by computers, but the human brain is the most powerful computer that we can even begin to fathom. Um, so yoga provides us with an opportunity to not only explore external technology, but internal technology as well.
I love that. What an amazing answer, and so relevant in the whole AI era that we're in. For those of us who work in tech, right? It's like it's this mind-blowing advancement that is just, you know, a lot of people are predicting things, but most of the time it's just mind-blowing. It's like, oh my goodness, like we're just able to start getting our heads around the ability of this power. But I love that you say, yeah, but the human brain actually created that. Like, let's remember to take care of these creatures because they're the ones that created in the first place.
Yes, yes. I'm excited about AI, but I'm even more excited about NI, natural intelligence, and what that means and what the bridge is between those two things. Our you said mind blowing, and our great teacher of our tradition, he said that when the world begins to evolve technologically and scientifically, as it must in our new era, for lack of a better term. In Kundalini Yoga, we call this the Aquarian age or the age of awareness, which is based on very ancient concepts. But I don't think it matters what we call it. Um, he said that, the mind would blow either wide open or implode upon itself, because now our neural pathways need to spread much further and wider than we've ever needed to in the past. Humanity has always, for most of its time, trained the mind to focus on tasks. So focus on the hunt, focus on this particular endeavor. But now we wake up every day and our mind has to grasp 10 different maps and maps within maps of things that we need to do. And even to use the functionality of technology requires multiple layers. Just to sign into your bank,
Mhm.
it requires multiple layers. So it's important that we don't forget the human brain and the human mind in all of this, because the more capacity we need, the more capacity we need. So as every day with technology growing, I feel like every day I'm a day behind.
Mhm.
And that in itself can cause a lot of stress on the nervous system of the human body. It can cause a lot of anxiety, and our inability to maybe zone in rather than always expanding outward. We need the balance, and that's what yoga teaches us and helps us to do.
Absolutely. Okay, so you're making me think of the breath. I just took a deep breath there as you were saying it, and the importance of taking care of the internal and refocusing, giving your brain a break, in the sense that letting it do what it was made to do over millennia. And it's only been recently that it's so fragmented and expected to understand all these different layers at the same time. Let's unpack a little bit more in terms of the physiology and how Kundalini actually does this technology, that you're talking about.
Yeah, I love that. You know, the yogic principles don't differentiate between the brain and the mind. When we refer to our mind, we sometimes point up here, but what we're doing is we're pointing to the brain. The mind is an all-expansive thing. We don't really know how to define the mind in scientific terms, consciousness. But in this world where people are really, really worshiping the mind, how clever are you? How powerful is your mind? We are sometimes dissociating from the physical body. And I notice that more and more in the mental health space, where people are just needing tools to drop into the environment, to drop into the moment. In a practical way, you can't be working or sitting in a meeting and your mind is in 10 different places at the same time. We become overwhelmed and scattered. So ancient tools, thousands of years old, with modern applications such as the breath, for example, and utilizing the breath consciously, as you said. So our ancient scriptures in the yogic tradition speak to our modern problems. Now, the breath isn't something that is new to us. We've been breathing from day one, and it's the last thing that we'll do on this earth as well, is take our final exhale. The breath is a link, it's a bridge between the body and the mind. And our teachings state that the mind controls the body, but the breath controls the mind. And so when we can master the breath and the rhythm and the depth of the breath, then mind and body, the mind body connection can link up. And that's what the word yoga means. Yoga actually means union. So, for example, physiologically, the breathing process has many different ways that it does this. We've got two nervous systems. We've got the what I call the brakes and the accelerator, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems. In our society, people are just keeping their foot on the accelerator all day. You can see it in the shops, you can see it on the road, going faster and faster and faster. But Nix, is that a way to drive a car? What will happen if we just hold the accelerator?
Eventually, the engine's going to break. You're going to crash into something.
We're going to crash. And this is happening all the time. People are having breakdowns and meltdowns and burnouts. The engine's going to burn out. So even in something as simple as our car, we understand the basics of balance: accelerate, brake, fast, slow. We don't seem to take that into account in our modern world. I often hear, but if I slow down, I'm wasting time, or I'm being lazy, or I could use that time better. But people are fine to charge their phones, charge their laptops, and rest their cars, but not themselves.
Mm.
So the breath is a great way to practice this, because the breath is one of the first ways we can engage the parasympathetic nervous system, our naturally developed brakes. So you can do this right now while you're listening to our conversation, and you can just take a deep breath in, deep from the belly. Hold that for a moment, and then just let out a sigh, just an audible sigh. Right? And let's do that 2 more times. In fact, everyone who's listening to this, place one hand on the belly and one hand on the chest. Let's make this a practical experience. So we want to do abdominal breathing. When we are in our stress response, we are doing clavicular breathing from the rib cage only. But when we are breathing from the true relaxation response, it's abdominal. So we can trick the brain by changing the breath. So start to feel the abdomen rising and falling as you're breathing, as if you have a balloon inside your belly. And for those of you who are brave, you can actually do this with your eyes closed, because that kind of takes the senses inside. And visualizing or feeling a balloon inside of the abdomen. And as we inhale, the abdomen should inflate. And as we exhale, the abdomen should deflate. Navel coming towards the spine. And just to find a rhythm here of the abdominal breath that is deep and slow and purposeful, we can then start to expand that up into the chest if we feel that we want to explore. So first beginning with the inhale deeply through the abdomen, and then letting that expand up, 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 up into the rib cage, and savoring that breath for a moment. And then you can either release it with slow control, or you can just sigh it out. And just practice 1 or 2 more rounds of this. I'm going to stop talking. And then relax your hands and either keep the eyes closed and continue listening to the podcast if you would like, or you can slowly blink the eyes open. Now, Nix, how do you feel after that simple but powerful exercise?
It's so, like as you say, it's so simple, and you just instantly feel more peaceful and relaxed. Like, I wasn't aware of how much tension I was holding in my shoulders until I closed my eyes and, had a couple of sighs, and then I felt them drop. So it's just the simplest things. And
So you use the word awareness, and awareness is part of this practice, right? So now in the yogic practices, we have entire lifetimes of studying of the breath. What I did with you now was nothing more than just bringing your awareness to a natural process. We've got many different breathing techniques in Kundalini Yoga. Some of them energize us. It's like the breath of fire. And some of them bring us down. And we need to know when we need that different medicine. So breath is an easy, and it's a non-invasive way. You don't have to follow a religion to breathe. You don't have to even have a spiritual notion of the world to breathe. So
what's
if some
actually
people are,
happening to us physiologically when we do
yeah.
something like that? What's the physiology of that, simple moment of breathing?
So these two nervous systems that I'm speaking of, they're always functioning together. And when we do something like activate conscious and deep breathing, Also, other tools that we use in the yoga might be chanting, utilizing the sound through the body. Might be cold water showers. We call it ishnan. People think that the cold waters are a modern thing, but very ancient across the world. Um, Many of our practices stimulate not only the parasympathetic nervous system, but what we also call the vagus nerve. So vagus, the word vagus means wandering, and it's not spelled the same as the city in America. It's Vagus. And the vagus nerve runs kind of through the center of the brain, past the pituitary gland, down through the throat at the back, through the vocal cords, through the lungs, and then down, and connects many of the major endocrine glands and organs in the body into a beautiful orchestra of interesting connection. And when we stimulate the vagus nerve, which is a very cutting edge and exciting thing right now in the world of mindful medicine, um, our whole body just comes to this natural point of harmony and homeostasis and balance. It's like you're plucking a harp string in the body and it's resonating with a chord that brings you back to you. So this is very physiological. This is something we can measure and we can test. And this is why I love calling it a technology, because that's what it is.
Absolutely. It's like biohacking as well, and understanding that this beautiful machine can be sort of optimized if you take care of it, if you learn, and if you take the time to do the simplest things like conscious breath a couple of times a day. It'll change everything. And then the other thing I wanted to ask you about was the mudras, to do with like certain things happen physiologically depending upon which hand is doing what. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes. So I just want to when I speak to mudra, I will speak to mantra as well, because I mentioned it without going into a nice explanation. Mantra is the use of sacred chanting or sacred sound. That's what we do in our tradition. But people don't have to be put off. They don't have to do something that feels foreign to them to utilize the benefits of sound in the body. So, for example, just humming. Humming is a very powerful practice that stimulates the vagus nerve and that stimulates that relaxation response. So just sitting and humming like a bee and just droning the letter M for a minute, for 2 minutes, will have an amazing effect on your state of mind. Singing does the same. So we utilize mantra in our tradition because yoga comes from the East, it comes from India, and so it carries all of those beautiful and sacred connotations, and we as teachers have a responsibility to teach that authentically. So we try not to dilute or whitewash the practice, but people who are not sure, they can access these benefits in other ways. The mudras that we utilize, the mudra is a gesture, normally of the hands. It can be of other parts of the body as well. And each mudra has a specific energetic and a psychological and a neurological impact on us. So each finger is associated with different principles in our tradition, such as the thumb to the index finger is for self-awareness and for concentration. Whereas in, the ring finger might help us to improve creativity, and the pinky finger to improve communication. Now, what's really interesting is when we were developing in the womb in a place of least resistance, because we weren't having to try and do anything. We didn't have to push the brakes or the accelerator. It was just evolving. You can call that natural intelligence, divine design, God, whatever you want to call it. There was something responsible for our process and our teaching state that just because you came out the womb doesn't mean that something bigger is not still helping you process along. When you were a baby in the womb, you kind of held your hands like this, right? You grip, even if you can see little babies, they still grip their finger like this. And this is a mudra of protection and of safety and of comfort. So this mudra helps us to have a feeling of safety because our brain and our mind remember it from when we were in our mother's womb as a something that holds us in a feeling of safety, of comfort. So if we feel frazzled or out of sorts, just do this. Just hold your thumbs like this, and you'll feel a beautiful contained sensation come over you.
It's so
Um,
beautiful. It's like there's so many things you're reminding me, simple little things that you can do to to hack, you know, to touch, to sort of come inside yourself, become self-aware, even when you're sitting at your desk in a meeting, whatever it is. There are things that you can do for yourself to stimulate the vagus nerve and actually calm down.
Exactly, exactly. You know, when these fingers were being formed in the womb, they were being formed at the same time as different hemispheres of our brain, and we have hemispheres responsible for memory, for language, for emotion, for primal functioning such as fight, flight, and then for more forward-thinking processes. And so, when we connect our fingers in different positions, we are literally tapping into different parts of the brain and activating those hemispheres of the brain to help us in different ways. It's like playing a piano with your own hardware.
Fascinating. Really, really cool. Okay, so one of the other things that that I thought
All
about
right.
when I thought about you and technology was that we met before COVID. During COVID, you were one of the people that really struck me as being ready for it. It's almost like you predicted it was going to happen because you had all of these online courses ready to go. And so there's that techie side of you as a, you know, yoga instructor slash counselor slash all of these beautiful healing medicinal things. You've got this techie side to you. So where did the inspiration come for your first course? And talk us through some of the things that you offer online.
So it might shock you to know that there was a part of me that was kind of feeling that there was something
Oh,
coming.
really?
And I
Okay.
think there was maybe something in all of us. Yeah, just like a horse can sense an earthquake coming. Those of us who train our nervous systems and who are able to listen internally, we can pick things up. And all human beings have this ability. So I was well prepared before the time, and I'll leave it at that. But you know, when this happened, one of the things that yoga gives us the ability to do, and not just yoga, there's many ancient practices that can do this for us, but adaptability is and flexibility, not just of our bodies, which is what people think yoga is all about, flexibility of the body, but it's actually flexibility of the mind. That's what we're striving for. Not perfect back bends necessarily, but can you bend over backwards when life kind of hits you with a whammy?
And sway with the
So
wind, right? Sway with the wind, the changing weather. Yeah.
exactly, bend but don't break.
Mm-hmm.
So when this happened, and in our tradition, we've had kind of forewarnings that things were going to happen, difficult challenges, whereby we were told you can have a mirror and a magnifying glass, and during these difficult times, these are your tools. So reflection and then deep magnification and introspection. So the yoga gives us that adaptability. And the first thing I thought is, I've been limited this whole time to teaching people in my general locale. But on social media, I just saw friends going through so much in their homes, panic attacks, anxiety, depression. And I thought, I have a responsibility to share what I know. So even before I started my online teaching platforms, I kind of jumped into the social media space from day one and started teaching and running daily meditations and just helping people to navigate that space. But Nix, when I realized the hunger, now people wanted to understand more. They thought there was some kind of an existential thing happening at the time. We were stuck in our homes. What's the purpose of life? I thought to myself, this is a great time where people are not distracted and they can actually learn. So I found some magnificent online platforms, and I started putting my content up on there. And I cannot even tell you how it all happened, but within a few days, I had hundreds of hours of content recorded, edited, and I'm not a tech person at all. This was all learned off of YouTube, and and everything from video to graphics to design to lighting to sound to editing to uploading and then running an online business and marketing, online payment platforms, everything. It happened in the space of just a few days. So human beings are extremely adaptable, and I practice my tools. So I know for a fact that when we are in that focused state, we can literally do anything, and time then is irrelevant.
Oh, totally. I'm just thinking now, you must have had some very interesting insight into the waves of different things that people have been feeling over the past 4 years or so. And I'm curious to know what that kind of looked at. So when, panic attacks, that's kind of your entry point on social media, like, I need to go and do something. I have the tools to help. What's happened since? Like, what's more recent? You obviously have quite a lot of counseling that you're doing at the moment. What are people coming to you for more recently, as opposed to maybe back then when lockdown happened?
Yes, so thank you. It's a good question. People went through a very quick phase after COVID of just trying to pack it all away and move on with their lives, which is normal. The human is always going to want to just pack it away and say, let's carry on. But now people are presenting with a severe post-traumatic stress, and they're not sure if that is what it's linked to, but in conversations the word always comes up. Pre-COVID I was A, B, and C, and now I am X, Y, and Z. And this is really focused in the area of relationships, marriages specifically. I've never seen an inundation of relationship related work as I do now, interpersonal communication. And I think it's because people are going, what actually is my purpose and what is this all about? And so these big questions are being asked, but often people don't have the tools to be able to answer those questions yet. So that's quite scary. And then financially, next, a massive one is money. Plain old, Maslow's hierarchy. Am I safe? Do I have home? Can I afford food? And in our tradition, yoga is very spiritual, but it's also very pragmatic. So we speak of the chakras, but the root chakra is what that means is, am I safe? The root, the very foundation of that ladder is safety. And so when people feel insecure about money, because money is the energy of safety in our modern world, whether you like it or not is irrelevant. We need it. So the moment that is threatened, you cannot focus on higher ideals such as, am I a good person? Am I a good husband or wife? Can I commit lovingly? Can I improve my parenting style? Can I study a new course, when the foundation of you is in fear? So this prolonged effect of the fight, flight, freeze, and response has really been noticeable now, and people are really in very scary space.
Okay, so you mentioned just before we started recording, Mental Health Day was on just recently,
10th
on the
of
10th of
October. Yeah.
October. Where do you recommend people start? There's going to be someone, if not loads, who watch this that are going to wish that they could just go somewhere and know where to start, or be able to recommend where to start to a friend or a loved one.
Yeah, it's a great thing to look at next. Because of the amount of information out there, it can be a bit overwhelming. So if you hop online, people are going to say, okay, now you've got to get your diet perfect and your sleep perfect, and you've got to exercise, and you've got to stop drinking and stop smoking, and that is just way too much. It's just too much. So then we kind of just close the video and go to bed, or or just ignore. So small entry points, small and accessible and realistic. Number one is to start having a conversation with a professional who knows what they're talking about. Each person can interpret what that means for them. But we need objective insight into ourselves, not just friends and family, although that is extremely important. So when I was working in the NPO space, we kind of had the sacred triangle. So that was counseling or therapy, then medication or being under the supervision of a doctor, and then the support of friends and family. Now, the middle one is a bit contentious for people, and so legally I'm obliged to say, always seek the expert advice of your medical physician when in doubt, and take it from there. But it's medication is not the only thing. Medication can help us, and it can be a crutch, but is it fixing the relationship? Is it fixing your feeling about your job, or your fear of losing your money? So we need a person who can hold our hands along that journey. And we need to realize that slowly a lifestyle adjustment occurs and needs to occur, but slowly wins the race.
Got you. Amazing. Thank you so much, Ryan. I've taken up loads of your time, more than expected. I really, really appreciate you chatting and providing such beautiful and valuable information for my audience. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Nix. Thank you. I always appreciate your time.